Monday on the Buddy Martin Show. I am Buddy Martin, as I am every day on this show. Actually, 4 days a week, sometimes nights, sometimes with Shane, kind of all over the place, folks. Good to be with you on this Monday. A lot of great things happened over the weekend for the Florida Gators, not the least of which was, well, we'll get into them. Man who was the host of the show that knows all, sees all, Shane Matthews, pot up with Matthews, and we'll be on with him tomorrow morning. So tonight we'll dig into the basketball situation. A lot of good stuff happening out there, and some stuff not so good. You wonder what it's going to take for this team to crack through, or does it even matter? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's better that they're like this. They keep you wondering, don't they? Stand by. The Buddy Martin Show is coming up right now on this channel.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ? I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Okay, you figured this out. Let me know. The Gators keep winning and keep dropping. Now, they did have lost to Georgia, which was ugly, but they rallied from behind. But nonetheless, when you get right down to it, I know what Shane's going to tell me. It doesn't matter right now. They're going to get either on the bubble to be a 2 seed or 1 seed. They still got 2 games important, including the one with Alabama. Boy, did you see that game? Wow. They gave that one up, didn't they? And then, of course, the final game of the season against Ole Miss, and then when they go to the SEC tournament, we'll have a double bye, and life can change, and life will be good. But life is never any better than it is for this guy. I tell you what, to be him, to be a former star player with an MVP trophy in his trophy chest, and plays golf all day, doesn't have to work except for his award-winning show that he does. He's got it made. He really does. He does a good job, by the way, too, and he gets by with it because he's really good. Well, that's nothing like somebody calling you in the middle of the night there, so let's see what that's going on. All right, so let's go get Shane. This is getting out of control here. Shane Matthews joins the program now, and Shane, it was a good weekend for the Gators this weekend, and I think overall, when you consider the combine, consider what's going on with those guys, how they're going to get drafted probably now, make a bunch of money. It's going to be wonderful. Shane, good evening. I'm going to turn my phone off.
What's happening, buddy? You're a very popular man.
I'm a very popular man with my bank calling me about something for some reason. Anyway.
Somebody stole your credit card number.
No doubt. That's going around. That happened to a friend of mine. So, yeah, Shane, well, first of all, did you have a good weekend, number one?
I did. I was out of town. What's crazy, buddy, is I didn't see any sporting events that the Gators played in. I just had to follow it all on Twitter. Obviously, they played well in basketball, as usual, when they play in the O'Connell Center. I saw where baseball took 2 out of 3. And softball did what they do. So, yeah, it's a good week, good basketball team we've been talking about all year long.
Let's talk about it for a second. Let's talk about the baseball. They won the series. They looked great in those first 2 games. I didn't get a chance to see them, unfortunately, but I know they got hammered by Miami in the 3rd game. We took a little luster off that. This baseball team is very, very good. I think Sully had actually pulled to an all-time tie with Miami. I don't know, some big 100% whatever in that game. Then he lost the last game. But did you watch any of it? If you did, what did you see? Obviously, some new players. A guy named Bostler who's new, and he looks like he can hit the rock. So tell me what you saw.
Well, unfortunately, buddy, as I stated, I didn't see any of the games. I wasn't in town, so wasn't near a TV or what have you.
Oh.
But they played well first two games. I talked to Cardozo this morning and just had some pitching issues and kind of snowball effect there in the third game. And they're 11-1. That's one of the best starts ever in school history. So it's a talented team. They got a couple of injuries with Coppola going out. Cade Curlin's out. I don't know how long. But they got some depth. And I think, 2 weeks from now is when SEC play starts against Tennessee. So they got to get some guys healthy by then.
Yeah, softball, my gosh, they just tearing up the desert out there, and the scoring looks like football scores. Your guy's got his team playing well. He's in for the great season. Talk about some of the new players. I don't know much about them. I haven't had a chance to see much TV other than the usual stuff. Certainly Tim Walton got his 1,000th win, big time for him. So what's going on there?
Well, I think it's the best team he's ever had. They just rolled right through the tournament here in Gainesville, which, the competition wasn't great, but he got his 1,000th win as a Gator coach. He's obviously got more than 1,000 wins, but that's a lot of wins, man. And they play Houston in Houston Wednesday, and then they start SEC play this weekend against the Lady Aggies of Texas A&M. So the grind really, really starts now because the softball in the SEC is brutal like baseball.
So much going on. The Count Combine had some really good times. The Gators. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Let's go to basketball. That's where everything focuses right now. Came back and won a big game against A&M after that unfortunate game against Georgia. We talked about that some. I mean, Georgia was out of its gourds. Everything he threw up there went in. You have those kind of nights, as you said. Georgia, no way. They could 9 out of 10 times Florida beats them. They didn't that night. The question is how much, if all, did it hurt Florida? Now, these polls don't matter that much at this point in time, but they do incite you a little bit. Could the fact that they may not be a 1 seed be a motivating factor for the team?
I don't think it matters really. Even before the Georgia loss, Joe Lenardi had us as a 2 seed. 1 or 2, give or take. I mean, look, this team is very good. It's very deep, got a lot of talent. And if they shoot the ball well, they can go a long ways. And, people get caught up in this rankings and all that. I would not care about that if I were people. You got a damn good basketball team that has a very good chance to make a deep run, and they have an opportunity to win the national championship.
They do, and getting Hamilton back is good, although the rhythm is not quite there. Boy, I know that. Think what's going to happen when they get their star player back in rhythm. Walter Clayton Jr. can light it up, and of course, Will Richards has been out of his mind. How do you go from scoring 0 points to scoring, I think, 25 and 26 the next 2 games? That's incredible.
Well, they got several guys that can do that on a nightly basis, and I think they've kind of settled in with their starting 5 with Clayton Richard and Elijah Martin, and then Thomas Houck and Chinyalu, and then everybody else will come off the bench. I think that's what you'll see the rest of the year.
If Chinyalu cannot get in foul trouble, they got the horses. They got players are under. We talk about them ad nauseum, how good they are. And on a given night, any of them can score 15 to 18, 20 points. If Clayton and Richard ever start playing together, they're hitting their shots together, look out. So it's hard to know. Do you think this team has seen its best games yet?
I think that, obviously the way they played at Auburn, I don't know if they can play any better than that. You don't have to play your best game. You just got to win the game in advance.
True.
I think too many people get caught up on, blowing people out. It doesn't matter how you win the game. Just win the game in March. And, I know let's just move forward to next week at the SEC tournament for whatever reason. We're going to have a double bye.
Double bye, yeah, that's
if
great.
If we are to lose, there's going to be people, we're going into the tournament. It does not matter. It does not matter. It may be a good thing to lose in Nashville, quite honestly.
I went and watched the Hoosiers again. Best basketball movie ever made, because after the death of Coach, and I had to go see that one again. And he gave a speech right before the game, the final game in the state championship in Indianapolis. And the speech was, if you give your best, it doesn't matter if you win or lose. And there's a little certain truth in that. And we've heard other coaches say that. Nick Saban has said that. Winning is the ultimate goal. But Saban says, don't focus on the long-term objectives. Focus on what's now playing your best and doing your best. There's a fine line in that there, Shane, in there someplace.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can play your best and still lose a game. The other team may play better. Yeah, I mean, only one team can win. That's the bottom line. There's going to be 68 teams in a few weeks that are playing for the national title, but only one's going to cut the nets down.
Yeah. Well, the postseason awards come into play now. We don't get too caught up on those, but there's news today that Walter Clayton Jr. is selected as a finalist for the Bob Cousy Point Guard of the Year. The Naismith World Basketball Hall of Fame announced. So he leads the Gators, of course, with 16.9 points a game, 77 three-point field goals, and 113 assists. He led the Gators to their third 25-win regular season in program history. Florida spent the last 3 months ranking in the top 10. You didn't ever see Bob Cousy. I did back in the day at the Celtics, and he was the whiz. He was everything that he was the Magic Johnson. He was of his day as a point guard. Of course, he was not anywhere near that athletically as gifted as Jordan or Magic were, but he was special. So anyway, that would be a nice award for Walter Clayton, but of course you can't think too much about that because you got to keep your focus on getting to the tournament, playing well. You got to win 5-6 games. It's doable, like you said, Shane. There's a national championship waiting out there for them if things go right.
Yeah, I mean, we got to wait and see how when the brackets come out, who we match up with. There's basketball is a big matchup game. Your talent against their talent, what kind of players, what kind of tempo you play with, things of that nature. So a lot will determine on who's in our bracket.
You're on record as having said that Walter Clayton Jr. is the best college basketball player you've ever seen.
No, that's not what I said, buddy.
Okay, what did you say?
I said it's not the best I've ever seen. I feel like he's the best I've seen at Florida.
Oh, okay.
Florida.
Okay. Well, maybe. All right. Well, that's still saying a lot.
Yeah. I think the reason I say that is because he plays with such ease. He's so smooth and can change pace of play, and he can create shots. We've had some really good players. I'm talking about that I've seen personally in my lifetime of being a Florida Gator. Obviously, I love Bradley Beal. I love Jason Williams. I thought White Chocolate was damn good too. So, yeah. I mean, everybody's got their opinion.
Mm-hmm. But yours matters more.
No, it doesn't. I mean, your opinion is just as much as mine.
But I'm not the expert you are on sports.
I'm not an expert either. I love basketball.
Where you like it or not, you're an expert, okay? You have a morning show and you're a color grand man on the games. And anyway, the point is, I want to get to the team. And it's early to make a judgment yet, but there's going to be this argument. And you're going to talk about it. And you have, I think, even a little bit on your show. By the way, Shane is on every morning at 8 a.m. there and just go to online and pick him up, pot up with Matthews, and you're glad you did. A lot of our listeners on this show listen to Shane, and I do too when I can. There's going to be a lot of talk about the 04s versus his team. The Billy team. How good was this team versus that one? And I haven't asked that question. You might even ask me that question. I don't know. I haven't asked it. I'm saying I'm not prepared to say that yet because
I think they're better personally. Yeah. Now the game has changed. The those two teams that went back to back played a different style of play than what these Gators play. I feel like this team is more athletic, personally. I think too many people, when you're comparing teams, you look and you say, okay, well, you can't say this team is as good or could be better than that team because they've won nothing. I agree with that. But I still, to this day, believe that the 2001 Florida Gator football team was the best football team that we may have ever had here. Coaches last year. I thought that team was phenomenal. But
didn't get a chance to show it.
Sometimes the best teams do not win a championship.
True. Very true.
So you can't say, well, these guys went to play in the NBA. You don't know what's going to happen with this crew until years down the road. So I just think the style of play, the athleticism, I think they got better shooters on this team than they did on the national championship teams.
More better shooters. Yeah, more better.
Yeah, I mean, Lee Humphrey was an outstanding shooter, but you got like 3 or 4 or 5 of them on this team. And again, people say I'm crazy to say that, but I don't give a damn. My eyes tell me.
It's okay. That's I agree.
But I don't care what people think. I think this team is way more athletic than that team.
Okay, I can buy that. I saw that team play almost every game, and I consider I see strengths of both. I love how they played together. Really, really like how they play. This team plays well together. I like how they shared shares the basketball, and so did the Force. And so there's a lot of similarities in that regard. But my gosh, the number of shooters, as you point out, number of really great shooters on this team. I don't think I know many teams of any kind anywhere that have.
Well, I mean, there's some other teams I mean, Duke's got a lot of good shooters. Auburn's got some.
I get you. I know you're right, but I'm not saying it very well. The strength of the two units, the front court and the back court. Everybody talks about the back court as they should. They can play 5 guards. They're really good, and all of them can play and shoot. But those bigs down there, the way they really rebound, and they're physical. And when you got that many fouls to give, as Franz likes to say, he counts they got 25 fouls to give down there. That's a big thing during the tournaments. So that's going to stand them in good stead, I do believe. Now, in comparing them, I don't know, but it's fun to talk about it. This team is very, very good. They're going to have to uptick it just a little bit here. They got they got Alabama, and they've got Ole Miss. Think they'll win them both?
I think Wednesday's going to be hard. Alabama's coming off a loss. I think they still have an opportunity to be a 1 seed, especially if they beat Florida. Playing there is going to be difficult. Ole Miss is very, very well coached. They got a good basketball team. We'll win because it's at home. But I hope we win Wednesday night, but it's going to be tough.
Can you believe Texas A&M has lost 5 in a row?
Yeah, they had a double bye about a week ago in the SEC tournament, and they're going the wrong way. But they're a team I would not want to play in late March because their style of play can really bother you if you're not used to it.
I love how Buzz Williams coaches. He's really a heck of a coach. Let's talk baseball. 9,300 people at Condron for Game 2, the most ever for this program. What is going on with this baseball crowd, man? And somebody complained about the $7 hot dogs. I've never bought a hot dog there, but anyway. So, man, that's almost a lot of big league teams like to have that many people.
Yeah, well, I mean, we needed the ballpark. And, I mean, SEC baseball is packed pretty much at every ballpark now. Kudos to Scott Strickland there for building that place. And, buddy, I believe this with all my heart. If they had a 9,000-seat stadium for softball, they'd fill it up.
Really?
Easily. They turn people away at that place. But people know that Florida's good in softball and baseball, and they're showing up.
Weather turns good. You know, it's been a nice day, nice spring. You want to go out there and go on the grassy knoll and, you know, and watch ball. Heck, that's a good thing. Back to Will Richard. I ran across this stat, and this is one you should look at. Will Richard's combined statistics last week, I think Graham Hall wrote this, 55 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals. Now, Silas Demery, who's the stud, he had 47 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 steals. Guess which player was the SEC Player of the Week?
Silas Demery.
Yeah. And Will Richard passed both Al Horford and Joakim Noah on Florida's career scoring list. So he's been, I go back to the contrast, 0 points, and then to do that. That's amazing. He goes from 0 to for the 2 games, 55 he goes for in the 2 games, 11 rebounds and 4 assists. Amazing. So absolutely amazing. And he lights up that 3, doesn't he? Man, he starts shooting that 3, and he's sitting and look out. Just give him the ball, move out of the way. So really been really impressive. All right, so stand by for a second. I think Scott Carter's going to join us. I'm going to tell you about our sponsor, the fine folks at Meldon Law. They want you to know they're there for you and ready for you to come talk to them about whatever you'd like to discuss, particularly if it's law or if it's Gators. And they're located, of course, in 4 places to serve you better. Right there in Ocala on the Pine Street, in Gainesville and Wilson and Lake City. And they also are very, very good about giveaways. If you need to try to score some tickets or something, or even sometimes a trip, they give away goodies like crazy on Meldon Law's Facebook page. Go over and check it out. Meldon Law, the official injury law firm of University of Florida. They won't back down. Well, let's talk a little ball about let's get Scott and talk about the combines. So some guys really helped themselves. I know Scott knows this. They showed up and they said, wow, boy, those guys are really fast. And boy, Scott, they look great, didn't they, in the combine? Did you see them?
I did. I watched a little bit of the 40. I don't watch the combine from start to finish like a lot of people do. It's not that interesting to me, but I do like to see what the guys do in the 40. That seems to be the event that I think can help a guy on the fringe the most, especially a skill position player. So I think Chim Dike, with that,
4.34
certainly helped himself. I did not expect him to run that fast. But he's a guy that I think exceeded expectations for the Gators on the field. In his only year here, he set career highs in receiving yards and was a better player than I really thought he was going to be honest with you. And I think he's probably proven that right now through this process to some of the NFL scouts. And then Elijah Badger had a nice, I think it was 4.43. Montrell Johnson would put up a really good time, 4.42. So overall, I think the skill position players who were up there for the Gators, they certainly didn't hurt themselves. And it'll be interesting to see with those good times if any of those guys decide to run to 40 at Pro Day later this month, or if they'll just let their time stand from Indy, because it got them a lot of pub. You can only almost hurt yourself unless one of those guys say, okay, maybe I can get a second or two better, not even a second. A second would be like Shane running. He could take a second off one of those.
Shane could do at least an 8.3.
Yeah, that's running backwards, buddy. He running forward. You're talking about something totally different.
Well, when you got a golden arm like he had, you didn't have to run. You just fling it down the field and score time. How do you play it?
Shane, did you run the 40 at Pro Day?
I did run the 40. I was trying to think of what I think I ran like 4.68 or something like that.
Okay.
I was going to guess 4.6.
Well, you're so Shane. Over the weekend when these numbers started popping up, and I was looking at the history of the Gators up there. The fastest ever was. Now my mind's going blank.
The fastest ever is Lewis Murphy.
Yeah, 4.32 Murphy. Chim is second. So obviously, I wanted to see who ran the slowest ever 40 for Florida at the combine. I'll give you guys one guess each, and then we'll see if you're close.
Yes, watching.
So what year was it?
It's been in the last decade, which surprised me.
Oh.
What was he? Was he a wide receiver?
No wide receiver. He was
Had
a
to be a
guy.
lineman.
It was an offensive lineman.
Okay, well, that's not kind of fair, but
It
I wouldn't
isn't
have
fair.
it. Shane, do you know?
I have no idea who
It was surprisingly Martez Ivy, a
Martez
5'8",
Ivy.
a
I
5'8".
forgot he even played there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, remember he was a 5-star guy.
Five-star.
Yeah, but he ran a 5'8" and most of those offensive linemen, let's face it, they're going to be 5'5" or above. So he's not that far. I think the next closest was Shannon Snell, 5'8". So hey, those guys, they don't care about running, So I was just curious to see what
Yeah, it's interesting.
I guarantee you they did a lot more bench presses than Chim Dike did. So, let's balance that.
No doubt.
Shane was a demon in the weight room. He was amazing. What could you bench, Shane? About 110?
I did 225. That's a great question. I think I did it probably 10 or 12 times, something like that. I was pretty strong for 180 pounds.
Shane was an athlete. Shane was an athlete. That's the thing about it. He'll tell you that.
So the difference, buddy, I'm going to have to explain it to you like I used to do those weight coaches in the NFL. There's a difference between being a good athlete or being athletic.
Yeah, I hear
I
you.
was the good athlete. I may not be real athletic because I used to argue with them. Oh, man, he ran a 4.4 and he benched this. And I said, he can't do anything but freaking run routes. He can't play golf. He can't play tennis. He can't play ping pong. He can't shoot the basketball. So he's not a good athlete. He's just athletic.
And some of the guys who run those routes can't actually catch. So, it's
very true. Very
the
good.
greatest line ever, this goes back a long way, on the speed of a guy in his hands was Bob Hayes, okay? Bob Hayes, who was, of course, a world sprint champion. Cowboys drafted him and signed him. And I forget which one of the guys said it. It was one of those guys in the front office in Dallas. It said, Bob Hayes has nine flat feet and 12 flat hands. That's how I remember. Something along with that.
He was great.
He was amazing.
Bullet
Bob. He was amazing. Yeah, I saw him run a few times. Let's talk a little football for a change, and we'll bring fans in there in just a second. Shane's going to go eat his cookies and milk her in a minute anyway. Spring football started, dudes. I mean, and Florida's right around the corner. First, let's talk about Florida. I'm glad they got a spring game, Scott, because I think that if for no other reason, the ceremonial part, not for the evaluating prospects, you can't. But I think it's still part of the ceremonies, isn't it, Scott?
Well, traditionally, it certainly is. And, it gives a chance for people to kind of get excited about football when it's really quiet in the college football world. But obviously, as we know, times are changing. And I was talking with someone today about, internally planning. I said, I think we're probably down to the last 2 or 3 years of spring football. If I had to guess, I just see it going more to a professional format. And, the games have become, they're not really that fun or interesting to me, but it is a great chance to get a lot of people on campus. They go to baseball, they go maybe over to softball. So you hate to lose that, but I think you can create another event around football that maybe can do that. I just don't know if the spring game, just from all the chatter in the coaching world, you could tell which way the coaches are leaning, and they're leaning toward getting maybe rid of it and doing something different, more along the professional model, and that they seem to be the running the show right now. So that's just my 2 cents, but I do like the fact that they get a chance to come up, and it should be a fun Saturday afternoon this year.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see the end of spring games as we already have it, as we know them. We're going to see the end of championship games. That's what bothers me. I see it coming. That 9th game, they're going to say we can't do the championship. Let's do it a different way. I don't know. I just hope they don't throw out the baby with the bathwater and start messing around. So I'm all for change. A lot of good things have happened. Shane, are you happy with the college football right now?
Yeah, a college football playoff. I love it. The more the better.
The whole game right now, everything.
Well, I'm not a huge fan of spring football. I think it's a waste of time. I know it's great for because it's free to get in, bring kids, that never get to come to a game in the swamp. I'm all for that, but it's really a waste of time. I don't see them getting rid of championship games. They make way too much money. I will be shocked in my lifetime if they get rid of the SEC championship game. I just don't know how they can do it.
Well, I mean, if they go to 20 teams in the playoffs, and start doing that. I mean, look at the college scene right now. They'd like to get rid of the college conference tournaments. I don't know. I just don't feel good about it. How about you, Franz? Do you feel all right about it?
They're never going to get rid of it as long as it makes the SEC probably $40 or $50 million.
Yeah.
Ain't going to happen. And I can tell you this much: college basketball tournaments aren't going to go away, because here's the reality. For people who want to expand the tournament and say, we got to let more teams in, you had your chance. Your conference tournament, you win your conference tournament, you're in the big dance. So don't tell me that we need to expand the NCAA tournament because we can't get teams in. So conference tournaments aren't going to go away, because then we lose the excuse that you had your chance.
Scott, we're having some problem with your microphone. Somehow we're getting a noise on it. If you could mind log it off and log it back on, I'd appreciate it very much. Just getting some kind of wind noise or something from your mic.
I mean, a little fan here. See if that
there you go. That was it. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Yeah,
I had my fan on. I was doing work. I was working out before I came on here. I was doing some sprints in the backyard.
You were running 40s, weren't you?
Working out? What is that?
Still sweating a little bit, so that's why I had it on.
Shane hasn't worked out in 33 years. Well, okay, 32.
Well, Shane was not a workout warrior, but he didn't need to be. He had his athleticism got him where he had to go. And
as Sonny Jurgensen once said, I don't throw with my belly.
Let me tell you something. I haven't liked Sonny Jurgensen since I was in the press box the night that the San Francisco 49ers played against the Redskins. And it was Steve's first real game as exhibition game. And Jurgensen, who I thought was a wonderful quarterback, he always said, he throws kind of sidearm, don't he? But look at the guys that throw sidearm today. Look, everybody throws sidearm. Anyway, yeah, he was. Yeah. All right. So let me just read something to you, and tell me if this is what we're talking about for the future reports. And when we read these kind of things, we go, well, there's some things here we got to be fixed. Or spring games ago, spring football, Alabama. Practice began on Monday. Long list of notable injuries changed the outlook for the next several weeks. Coach Kalen DeBoer provided an injury report after the first practice on number 1. Here are the players who are currently out of action. Punter Alex Asper, how you pronounce this? Asperuhoff, whatever. Long snapper David Byrd. Wide receiver Bubba Hampton. Bubba was my guy. Linebacker Cavante Henry. Cornerback Domani Jackson. Linebacker Deontay Lawson. Tight end Danny Lewis. And safety Keon Sapp. Which is a way he's saying he's going to set them all down, guys. Isn't that right?
Which is a way of saying, who are those guys?
Well, they all play for Alabama. I don't know.
Well,
I mean, tell me how many of those guys project in the 8 deep.
Well, it was important enough for him to talk about it and go on and say, "Here's my guys I'm missing." So he was sending some kind of message there, something. Don't know what.
Well, that's because some guy from the internet's going to sit there with a roster, and he's going to be checking off guys that are no-shows when they're doing calisthenics during their 28 seconds of time when they get to view practice. That's why.
Friends, everybody's got to have a job, okay? Here's something more important before Shane goes to sleep. See, you're on it right now. Bill Belichick. All right, what does this say? Bill Belichick's favorite book, so that's what it says, isn't about football. It is The Art of War by Sun Tzu. For decades, he's applied its principles to dominate the NFL. How long before, after Steve Spurrier do you think he did? That's the question. I got news for you. I am almost positive Spurrier did it before he did. He espoused that. I'm sure Shane can almost recite those principles from Sun Tzu. So you think Belichick did it before Spurrier?
Guarantee he didn't. Spurrier gave a copy to Mary Wise in 1991. Yeah. That's a fact.
Well, he had it at Duke, I think. So
maybe he'll answer it on Hard Knocks with the Tar Heels this year. Maybe he'll answer that question.
Yeah, there you go.
Belichick. That was pretty interesting to hear that Hard Knocks is going to do North Carolina instead of the NFL team.
That Belichick will let him, a guy who wouldn't even, the worst press conferences in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, people
2-word answers, 2-word. But I mean, he's done that. He did that, and he would give you least information possible. Yes, no, maybe, whatever. And here he is in the media now.
He's turned over a new.
He was great on Peyton and Eli's Monday night every game.
It's not the same thing, Shane. That's like that's like having a beer with your friends. But being in front of the media and answering questions, those people are beneath. Well, let's talk about that for a second. Shane, did you ever hear anything? Did you ever read Art of War? Did you ever hear Coach talking about it?
Yeah, I actually have it. I've read through it. I don't memorize everything like Coach does because I didn't really coach. But yeah, I have the book.
By the way, speaking of which, congratulations, another Hall of Fame for Coach Spurrier, the quarterback's Hall of Fame. Did you know they have one of those, Shane? I didn't.
Yeah, it's the National Quarterback Club. Back in the, I don't know if they still do it, but they used to give out like a high school award to a quarterback and to a college kid. I got it one year, and they had a big event down at Innisbrook for it. I don't know if that was in 91 or 92, but yeah, I went down there and we had a good time.
I mean, he's the most decorated Gator in the history of Gators. And I hope people appreciate him. I think there's still some people kind of hacked off that event you went to there at the Spurs Grand Grill, first-year coach award, that nobody from the university showed up there. And I get it, but I mean, it seems to me someone who's brought that much glory to this school. Of course, I'm a Spurrier guy, and you guys are too. That he deserves someone from the university to be there and show up and represent. Look at the things he does for the university. Am I wrong about that, Scott?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I didn't know that was an issue. That's the first I've heard about it. To be honest,
well, I'm making it an issue.
Okay.
Well, I think Coach has got so much going on, he doesn't even know who's there and doesn't care.
Doesn't matter. It's a respect.
I know that there was definitely some there the other night because I know I was talking to one of our SIDs and he was really impressed with Marcus Freeman, who was
Scott
there.
Burns, but I mean, Billy wasn't there. I think the one coach who there was Shane. You talked to him. The guy who was the Gator coach who was there. One assistant.
Mike Peterson was there, but he was there as a former player.
I know. Yeah. Shane, what do you think?
I don't think it matters. I mean,
really,
because it has nothing to do. I mean, the only other coaches that are there are the ones that are there getting awards.
Yeah, but I mean, how about the host? How about Scott Strickland? Am I crazy, friends?
Well, first off, you're not. But secondly, I think Spurrier worries about that, about like how many pimples are on an elephant's ass. I mean,
but I worry about it because I think it's disrespectful.
Oh, it is, but I don't think Steve particularly worries about it. I just don't. But I agree with you. I don't think it sets the visual effect of him not being there when word gets around, which it does. I don't think that's good. I really don't. I think that, and as you said, buddy, for as much as he has done, Florida football is still in the dark ages, and we were before Steve Spurrier. And He brought us out of the dark ages in the 60s and brought us out of dark times in the 90s. The fact that if he's going to fart in the night, somebody needs to be there to appreciate it.
Freddie Beebe's on there now. He's to be congratulated for a great event he put out. He has a little note here. I did not know this. It's a good note because Freddie has to know. He says that had HBC's auction off their Horde Award book at Danny's fundraiser in Jacksonville last year. That's pretty cool. Wonder how much hey, if you're listening, tell us how much it went.
It was one. Yeah, I was there, and the guy that bought it was sitting at my table. It was Kevin Edmondson, who runs Edmondson Electric down in the Tampa area. I think he paid $17,000 for it.
Okay, wow, who knew? Yeah, that's pretty cool.
They need to auction off one of yours, buddy. They get much off that.
$2.
5 at least.
I'm looking up here the remaining copies I've got of the Sea Spurs in hardback, not many. I went online to buy a couple of the old books, and they had these rare books, and one of them was $100. I'm not paying $100 for my own book. You can't get any more of them. Anyway, that's not because it was valuable. It's just they're sold out. That's the point. So I'm wrong, apparently. Karen says it was a university function. Has nothing to do with it, Karen. It's out of respect for your guy who's given you so much and done so much for you. Find a way to get somebody.
Well, buddy, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here because remember, Coach is not receiving any awards. You know what I mean? It's his name is on the trophy for the coach that gets the award, but they give a freshman of the year on offense, a freshman of the year on defense, a special teams player, legend award, and then the coach of the year. So I hear what you're saying, but maybe we were busy making phone calls and recruiting players, which is more important.
And I don't know, this is another thought is, I mean, if I'm Billy Napier, I don't know if I show up or not with Dabo Sweeney there. I don't know if I like.
Someone said that had nothing to do with it. Somebody put that out somewhere. Nothing to do with it. Whatever.
Probably, I'm sure it didn't have, but I'm just saying, I don't think him and Dabo are probably chummy.
I'm sorry. I'll go to my grave saying it was disrespectful not to have been there. And I think they ought to be. Then that's me. And Freddie can tell me if I'm wrong. He's online here, but nonetheless. All right. So Shane, before you go, when's the next time you're going to have Tim on the show?
Tim Walton?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. Probably in a couple of weeks. I don't know.
Okay.
They're busy.
How does he find
people when they're busy?
No, I know. I understand that. But that's when he has to go on the show once in a while. And inform us, how does he find these pictures?
We're one of the top 3 programs in America.
I know, that's what I'm saying. How does he do
they
it?
want to come to play here.
Okay.
I mean, they start recruiting them when they're like in the 8th grade, 8th or 9th grade.
Yeah. Yeah. They have any NIL deals there? Probably do a few, right?
They do.
Last one before you go, Shane. Jimmy Johnson retired today from Fox. I know it doesn't matter to most people, but Jimmy's brought a lot to that show. He's done now. He's 81. He's through, and the next would be Bradshaw, and will also be Howie probably. So they've had a great run on that show. Jimmy Johnson, as he goes out the door, any final words, Shane, about him?
No, I didn't watch that show. I don't watch a lot of those NFL pregame shows, but I mean, obviously he was a tremendous college coach and pro coach. I mean, the record speaks for itself.
Mm-hmm. Won them both. How about you, Scott?
I'm a big Jimmy Johnson fan just because I'm a big Cowboys fan, and I liked his presence on the show. I really haven't watched much of that in the last few years, but anytime you have a guy who's won a national championship collegiately, won the Super Bowl, and then he went on to have the kind of career he did. He even was on Survivor, fellas. I mean, he's earned his retirement, and I remember reading the book that I think, believe it or not, I don't know if Skip Bayless wrote it. Turning this thing around is about when he first got to Dallas, and man, Jimmy Johnson was ruthless, man. I remember he basically told his wife at the time, honey, I got a big job to do. I'm sorry, we're getting divorced, and then he just dove right deep into that job, and he separated himself from his family, and he got it going the way he wanted to, and obviously it worked. But man, I just opened my eyes to, wow, what a guy who he really wanted that job and really wanted to make his mark there, and he did, obviously. But interesting guy.
The defensive coordinator for the Picayune High Maroon Tide in 1966.
Oklahoma
I
State.
did not know that. I did not know that.
Yes, indeed.
There you go.
And Janis Joplin's prom date.
I did know that they went to school together. I didn't know they were prom date.
I didn't know Janis Joplin was a Picayune graduate.
No, that was in Port Arthur. They were next door neighbors. Their dads worked in the oil fields, and they couldn't afford to ask anybody else out for a date, so they went to the prom together.
You don't get that kind of stuff, folks, any other shows.
No.
You don't get that stuff there. All right, Shane, say goodnight and tell me who's on the show tomorrow.
Award-winning Buddy Martin's on the program,
Yeah.
and then Ernest Graham. You're leading off on Ernest Graham.
Oh my gosh, that's a pleasure. I'll be delighted. That'll be good. I'm glad to hear him. I'm glad his son is doing so well. I'm hearing good reports, Scott, on Ernest Graham's son, Miles. He sounds like he's a real leader.
Yeah, I think he is, and I think that's a big reason why they wanted him for that locker room presence, but also obviously as a player we saw starting to flash a little bit toward the end of last season. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him if he stays healthy. I just know that he it's always great to see when those players' sons come back, but it's also great when they're really good players. I think he has a chance to do that.
All right, Shane, talk to you in the morning. Thanks, buddy. Good night.
All right, fellas. Y'all.
See you, bud.
We're gonna do a spot here, and then we're gonna jump back into basketball a little bit. I know you can't stay forever, Scott, but hang around for a couple of questions.
Sure.
Let's talk about it. I want to get into the 04s versus his team. Shane and I talked about it a little bit. Friends, you know a lot about it. I know, Scott, you saw them. I think this is a comparison we're going to hear more and more of as they get to the tournament in advance. Meanwhile, let me tell you about our friends and our sponsors. Let me get my phone out while I do this. Talk among yourselves for a second.
Well, the 04s against the, what are we calling these? The 25s?
The 25s, yeah, I guess.
That's an interesting debate. I'm not ready to go label this team better than the 04s. Gotta win one before I can even get close to that. But this team is certainly fun to watch.
This team is fun to watch, but I don't think they play anywhere close to the same amount, the intense level of defense that those teams in 06 and 07 played. Those teams, all you got to do is look at the semifinals and finals in 2007. Look at the three-point shooting of UCLA, which has Russell Westbrook playing for them. Ohio State, which has Mike Conley and all these people. Both those teams came into Atlanta shooting better than 50% from three in the tournament. And let's see, UCLA, if memory serves me right, went 5 for 25 and 5 for 22, and Ohio State went 4 for 24. Lee Humphrey just absolutely destroyed his guy, which was amazing because Hump has never, ever been given credit for the great defensive player he was. But you ask Tarian and guys like that who played with him, and they say he was just, nobody in practice, nobody wanted Humpers to defend him because he was just, he was just a scratching claw kind of guy because he didn't have the physical attributes as some of these other guys had.
That's interesting because, you never really think of Lee Humphrey in that area as defense. You just think of three-pointers, so that's good nugget there. I just like I like this team's its depth. It's not, I don't know that fours. I mean, they had great depth too, obviously, but I think the difference, you hit it on the head. That defense, I mean, that defense that they played back then, it's a different game nowadays, but I think that team back then would fit nicely into today's game because they played such relentless defense.
Good job, guys. I'm going to do this commercial real fast on Titan. Come back and wrap up that thought and ask you for your thoughts about Gene Hackman and about the greatest sports, one of the greatest basketball movie I ever saw. I watched it again. Titan MRI Imaging. Now Titan MRI Imaging. Titan MRI Imaging acquired a high-field MRI. Joe Coloria started high-field MRI in 1997. Now he's back. Titan MRI and Imaging now has 3 locations, 2 in Gainesville, with its Park Avenue location, and now the Millennium Center, and one in Lake City, serving all of Columbia County and Valdosta, Georgia. Titan MRI Imaging offers the same great customer service, except insurance through their convenient self-pay options. They offer MRI, CT scans, X-rays, and ultrasounds. Easy scheduling with lots of options, include evenings. Titan MRI Imaging, here to serve you. Many locations and more coming. Titan MRI Imaging. All right, guys, Hoosiers. I just love that movie, and I had to go back and watch the scene when they got to Butler Fieldhouse, and they with their team, a little school in the middle of nowhere in Indiana, the smallest ever, and he walk in with a tape measure. Remember the scene, friends?
I do indeed.
Scott, you remember it, Scott?
Vaguely. I mean, I haven't watched that movie in years, but I love it.
Yeah, and I loved it in rewatching it. My wife had never seen it either. So, I mean, just the whole narrative was really good about how he was a down and out guy and all that.
Yeah.
And then he had 5 players, and then he had to play with 4 players one time. And anyway, the bottom line is that scene, here these guys go through all this stuff together. You got to imagine, Indiana basketball is like 10 times bigger than Gator football here. I mean, it just is. It's huge. And so this little school is playing in the state championship against South Bend, a much better team. And they were doomed to get crushed. And they go in, and Dennis Hopper was the drunken assistant coach, by the way. And they go to and he wasn't at the game that night because he got drunk. But anyway, the fact is they came in with tape measures, and they had the boys do a walkthrough around the gym, and they took the measuring tape and they measured the foul line to the basket, and then they said measure the baskets. They put the smallest player they have on somebody's shoulders, and they measured the tape measure. Yep, 10 feet, just like our gym. I thought that was just amazing. I love that. Didn't you guys?
Now that you said that, I remember that now. I don't know if you guys saw it. When he passed away the other day, somebody had retweeted a picture. I don't know if you guys remember, but back in 2016, I remember being out at spring practice one day. And after practice, I'm just standing there on the fence watching, and this guy comes up with a woman. And after I saw pictures of Hackman's wife this week, it wasn't his wife. I think it was Del Rio's wife, Jack Del Rio. She was blonde, and she was helping him around. So I just kind of figured maybe that's Luke Del Rio's grandfather or something. Anyway, a student trainer runs over to where I was standing, and there was a chair there. And he goes, "Do you care if I get this chair?" And I said, no. And this guy comes over and he sits down. And even before he sat down, he said something like, I think he said something along the lines of, a guy my age probably needs a chair. And he sat down, and I didn't recognize him, but that voice, instantly I knew, damn, that's Gene Hackman. What is he here for? And of course, him and Jack Del Rio became buddies.
Didn't know
when
that.
Del Rio was out there with the Raiders, and they become family friends. And somehow he flew here to watch Luke practice one day. Just a totally random thing. But yeah, Gene Hackman, he's in my all-time top 5 favorite actors for sure.
I'll tell you something that's interesting is Florida Associate Athletic Director and trainer Duke Werner is from a place that they call Versailles. Most places in the civilized world call it Versailles.
Not
But
Kentucky.
in Indiana, it's Versailles, Indiana.
Indiana, yeah.
And it is 5 miles down the road from Milan, which is who Hoosiers is staying at. In 2006, I flew into Cincinnati and rented my car there because flying into Indianapolis was just ridiculous prices.
Yeah.
And rental cars were $250, and I rented my car. I rented a luxury car for $33 a day out of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So I stopped in Versailles, and I got a Gator jacket on, and of course, everybody in the whole place says, "You know Duke Werner?" And I went, "Yes, I do." And all of a sudden, Duke's family shows up there, and I told them I was stopping to eat, and I was on my way to Milan. They called ahead. The lady opens up the museum there, wow. And I got to go in the museum. I still have my Milan 1954 state champs T-shirt that I bought that day, and they took me to the gym itself where Milan played. And basically, you're talking about a barn with a few benches in it.
That's a great story. Yeah,
it is. You got the Duke Order treatment.
Yeah, I don't have anything that dramatic. I did run across Gene Hackman in New York, actually, and he rode back on the plane with us. I could see he was going to Albuquerque to Denver. And my daughter Rebecca, look, Dad, there's Gene Hackman over there. Thing about it is, I don't know why. I don't know. I see this. I've had people tell me, buddy, you remind me of Gene Hackman. I don't see it. I said, well, what are you talking about? I don't hear. I don't. Anyway, I guess I was young. Anyway, R.I.P. to him on a great movie. So, Scott, thanks, buddy. We appreciate it very much. Anything we should know about in terms of breaking news with players?
Nothing I know of tonight. I mean, I'm curious. On Thursday, we always learn something about spring. Like, hopefully, it's not that long list that Kalen DeBoer releases, but I'm sure Billy.
Is Thursday the first day?
Thursday is the first day, and then Billy and some others have press availability afterward. So it'll give us a chance to kind of get caught up on the who's there, who's not. I mean, nothing that we won't be rewriting come fall, but it's always nice to touch base with them in the spring.
Well, we talk to all the big dogs like Fran Spirit and guys like that. All right, thank you, Scott. Appreciate it, man.
See you, fellas.
Well, friend. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
So, friends, talk to me about this basketball team, will you? I know we've discussed this 100 times. I know you made an you're an officials guy. You like to hammer them every now and then. I don't do that, but I will say this: you're a student of the game, and you today on the phone call tonight, you impressed me because you had some data on the rating of officials I'd never heard before. You want to share that?
Well, yeah, you've got. I'll give you a guy, Mike Nance, and I have said, and you've heard me say it probably a half dozen times this year alone. Mike Nance, if you get him on the road, you want him on the road. In fact, you do not want him at home. And Mike Nance, hang on a second, or I'll give you the exact data because I have this thing called refmetrics.com. I mean, I guess you could say that maybe I pay a little bit too close attention to in basketball, etc. like that. Anybody who has refmetrics.com does. But Mike Nance at home he is a better official. He's a guy you want on the road. He calls 18.3 fouls on the home team. He calls 19.8 fouls. There's a 1.4 difference between the fouls called on the home team and fouls called on the away team when he calls a game. And officials are like that. You can go to a place like Refmetrics and you can find out all kinds of interesting stuff about, for example, you got guys that have called 110, 115 games already this year, which is it's just really, really hard to imagine that you get guys that do that much. It boggles my mind that you do that. In the SEC, for example, I'll give you a quick rundown on that in the SEC. You know who my least favorite officials are in the SEC. I don't have to tell anybody about that. That is, if you get, if Florida gets Pat Adams or Joe Lindsey, the Gators may win the ball game, but it's going to be a rock fight to do it. It just is, and it always has been. I think they're the two. I don't think they're very good. I think Joe Lindsey ranks with the bottom feeders in the league.
What does he do wrong, France?
I think Joe Lindsey gets too influenced by crowds. I think he gets too influenced by coaches who kind of. I think he gets too influenced by coaches that jump on his case a little bit. I think, as my old high school coach in Mississippi, Benny Kimball, used to say, he sure gets a hell of a case of the red ass, don't he? You know, he's like that. When he calls a Florida game, it's bad news. I texted Denver Parlor, who's the SID, when Florida played Tennessee up there, and I looked at the officials and I said, how in the hell in a game of this magnitude, Florida and Tennessee at the time, I think the Gators were, Tennessee was ranked, Florida and Tennessee had already played, and it had been a hell of a big ball game before, and it was even bigger the second time. And I said, how do we get Joe Lindsey? And he sends me back 3 question marks, like hell if I know. And some guys are like that. There are guys that you like at home, because the reason you like at home is because you know that you're going to get a decently called game, and they really don't care who wins the game. What they care about is getting the call right. Yeah. Ted Valentine is. Yeah. I think Ted Valentine is one of the 3 or 4 best officials for getting it right. I know a lot of people think he's too much of a flashy guy and a showman. His nickname's Television Ted, but Ted Valentine wants to get it right, almost more than any official I know. Another one that does that like that is Doug Sermons. We had a guy in the SEC named Mike Eads, who's now the director of officials. And Mike Eads was one of the very best at doing that. And that's what you want, buddy. You want a guy that in the first 5 minutes of the game lets you know how the game's going to be called.
Right.
And in the last 5 minutes of the game, it's being called the same way.
Right. We're out of time tonight. We'll get into this more depth, but one of our favorites was Don Rutledge. He was as good as they came. And we're going to get Don on the show again here soon one night.
We need to.
I communicate with him.
He is Don. I'll tell you what Don Rutledge was. Don Rutledge was what coaches call a neutral whistle. Dean Smith, who was as you know was a very good friend of mine. Dean Smith, his name for Don Rutledge was neutral whistle, which means that he didn't give a rat's ass who the game was being called for. Where he was, who we were playing. The whole thing was what's the right call?
We've had him on a few times. We talked about makeup calls and stuff like that. All right, friends, great job tonight. You're writing really great stuff. Your basketball coverage was exceptional over the weekend. You and Chris Spears, kudos to what you did.
Hell of a picture, isn't it, of that block by Condon?
Wonderful picture.
Isn't that a terrific picture?
I tweeted out when we talk about basketball, when Franz Beard and his photography buddy get together and do a game, Chris Spears, there is nobody better. You guys did a fantastic job that night.
Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it.
Have a good one, Franz. I'll talk to you later in the week, all right?
Take care.
The great Franz Beard. Read him on Gator Bait. You know who else? He's the man, all right? Watch him on this show and sometimes on Sidelines, which he was on this morning too as well. All right, folks, we're going to tell you tonight, and we're going to tell you about our friends at Winstar Medical Research. I save them to last always because they're so special. They're not even friends of mine. They've been supporters for many years. It's the things they do for our community in Ocala that are so great. They have your health at interest, and they want you to participate with them in finding better ways to treat us. By doing this, if I want to tell you right now, you can help yourself, you can help them, you can help the community in North Florida. And that is to go and get a clinical trial. There are many different ones. They've had over 800 of the old years, and they'll have them on certain diseases or problems like mumps or measles or this, that, and the other. And it doesn't take a long time, maybe a few weeks. If you qualify, you get compensated for time and travel. And you also will have nothing taken out of your insurance, whatever. You just have to commit to those particular times. Check them out. They're wonderful people, friends of mine. Joe Sorrentino is a partner with Mary Brantley, two special people who met in high school. And they run it. And Joe, of course, is the father of Joey Sorrentino, which was my dentist in Ocala, by the way, former football player, Joey. It runs in the family. So, again, go on WinStar.net, log on and see what you can do to learn more about your health and help those folks out there. Well, thank you for listening and thank you for watching. And remember, WinStar Medical Research seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Have a good night tonight, folks. We'll back at you tomorrow. Lauren Meadows will be here tomorrow. I'm going to have Steve Russell on tomorrow night. Steve Russell, he's just retired, although he's not, and he never will. He brought us a lot of good coverage and still does a podcast, and we'll have him on the program tomorrow. And then, of course, our regular crew, we're going to have, Edgar Thompson is going to join the show on Wednesday night, and he'll be on with Allie Peak Wilbur, and we're going to have a good time. We'll do some good stuff. So you have a great night, and we'll catch you tomorrow night right here, same time, same channel.